Okay, good afternoon to you all. My name is Pedro Horta. I am a researcher at the University of Evora in the field of solar thermal energy, more specifically in solar concentrating technologies, and looking into applications of low and medium temperature solar energy heat. Desalination comes, of course, as a very important application. And so we have already seen, and it's of course known, that water is a basic need for any human activity. And it has already been stressed the importance of energy access to break the poverty cycle, to feed the development of human activities. Well, even it was brought to my knowledge that one of the shortcomings of energy access, it's also seemingly some matrimonial problems in some places in the world. But, well, today we are going to talk a bit about where these two issues of water access and energy access overlap. And we will see that this happens when we talk about desalination and we talk about renewable energy-based desalination. Okay. So desalination is becoming more and more a solution to water production in many places in the world. So from the 70s, there was a constant increase of desalination capacity installed. It has had a boost from 2000, and today it stands for over 80 million cubic meters a day of production. Of course, this water production comes also with energy consumptions. And these energy consumptions increase as the salinity of the feed water increases. And of course, this poses already some questions regarding the impacts of these energy consumptions, not only from the environmental point of view, but also from the economical point of view. Not disregarding the situations when we don't have energy access, and we have at the same time water scarcity conditions. Oh, I'm having some problems. Okay. So, when we talk about desalination, we see that it's intrinsically an energy-driven process when we are separating water from salts. So we have different processes for doing that. Basically, we have membrane-based processes or we have thermal-based processes. But in all these processes, we will have a feed-in based on a saline solution, so water and salts. And with some given technology, we want to separate water from salts. And doing that, we need energy that might come in different forms, either osmotic pressure, vaporization heat, or fusion heat. So in this chart, we can see that desalination processes can be classified in terms of the energy requirements they stand for, in terms of the form of energy they use. And basically, we will have processes using mechanical energy, thermal energy, or electrical energy directly. So if we think that mechanical energy can be derived from either thermal energy or from electrical energy, we can state that basically energy inputs for desalination processes take the form of heat or electricity. So both these forms of energy are potentially based on the exploitation of renewable energy sources. And we have varied technologies which enables us to do that. So for heat production, we can have solar thermal technologies, we can have biomass or geothermal resources, and for producing electricity, we can rely on solar photovoltaic, wind power, or wave power, for instance. And of course, the exploitation of such resources in these desalination processes stand for a reduction of environmental impacts, stand also for safety of supply, and even can stand for potential cost reductions on the water production system. Not neglecting local resources which can take the form of wind resources or wave resources or geothermal resources. What we can see is that the solar resource has a notable coincidence with water scarcity areas. So mainly we can state that solar energy-based desalination could be a solution for all of the regions presenting water scarcity problems. So this situation is clearly reflected on the statistics for renewable energy-driven systems. And we can see on these statistics, which are not very present, so these are numbers from 2004, but still they show us this trend. We see that 70% of renewable energy desalination systems rely on solar-based resources. Photovoltaic and reverse osmosis combinations alone stood for 32% of the total installed systems. Also, wind power based systems with reverse osmosis have a clear importance, so they stand for 20% of these systems. So let's take electricity-driven renewable energy desalination, and taking the most common technologies combination, which takes the form of solar photovoltaic and reverse osmosis, we can see in here the basic scheme of such a system. So we will have a group of photovoltaic modules connected to a load regulator, which can be connected to a DC-AC inverter and to a group of batteries, providing either DC or AC current to feed a desalination process, which normally is a reverse osmosis system. This configuration might be simplified by connecting directly the solar photovoltaic modules without any electricity storage to the desalination system, which should then be fed on DC current. So this configuration here would be the most complete, sort of saying. And this concept is very similar to situations when instead of using solar energy, we would use wind power. So the configuration of the system would be exactly the same. And actually, these systems are very prone to hybridization between wind power and solar power. So this kind of concept, it also presents a potential for either standalone or grid-connected systems, which is important. And, but mostly, they have been relying in small capacity systems up to today. One important thing is that already we have available plug-and-play solutions for this combination of technologies. So I will show here. Sorry. Oh, okay. Perfect. Oh, much better. Thank you. So we can see in here two examples of this kind of system. So we have above an autonomous photovoltaic reverse osmosis system designed to satisfy a small community of 50 to 75 inhabitants. And under we have an autonomous wind power reverse osmosis system enabling the production of 80 cubic meters a day, which is installed in Heraklia Island in Greece. And if we look into a short list of such systems installed up to 2007 to 2008, we see that mostly these systems are small capacity, some of them medium capacity systems. So looking now into thermally driven renewable energy desalination, well, in here we can have a broader combination of either solar energy technologies and desalination technologies. But the basic concept all them follow is the same. So we will have a solar field producing heat. This heat can be stored in some sort of thermal energy storage, can be linked to a backup system enabling the desalination to occur even in situations when we don't have solar energy available. And so it will be fed into the desalination process, establishing a safe and reliable water production. So as I was saying before, we can have a broader range of technologies coupling in thermally driven systems. They can stand for very basic systems relying on single effect distillation, or more efficient systems relying in multi-effect desalination technologies. So with this combination of technologies, we can go from very small to large capacity systems. As well, in here, we already have available plug-and-play solutions, from which I will show some examples. So the top left one is the most simple system. It's called the water cone. So over there we have fully integrated the solar collector, which is a very basic flat covered collector, which integrates already the distillator. So this is a single effect distiller. It's very low in efficiency, of course, and stands for 5 liters a day of production. So moving to the right, we have a combination of flat plate collectors, so a different technology for solar collectors, combined with membrane distillation modules. And so this system is highly modular and stands for productions in between 1 to 10 cubic meters a day. So moving down, we have a project which is from the 70s or from the 80s already, where the collector, the solar collector, is a solar pond. So in a solar pond, we can store heat on the bottom layer of a pond by means of establishing a salinity gradient in this pond. And this solar pond was providing heat to a multi-stage flush system. This system is installed in Qatar and had a production of 19 cubic meters a day. And the last one, with a higher capacity, combines evacuated tube collectors with multi-effect distillation. It's installed in Abu Dhabi and stands for a production of 120 cubic meters a day. So in here we can see that actually we can have very simple solar collectors, more sophisticated solar collectors, very simple desalination technologies, or more complex and more efficient solar technologies. So there is a broader range of technology combinations addressing different situations, different capacities. So if we look into this short table, which summarizes a number of thermally driven renewable energy desalination systems, we can see that actually we have a broader range of capacities which come from 0.3 cubic meters a day to 6,000 cubic meters a day. And we can see on the right that we can have a vast variety of solar collector technologies linked to a wide variety of desalination processes. Still, we have another possibility, which replicates the largest thermal desalination systems existing to the date, which work in cogeneration with power production plants. So the existing systems work together with oil-driven power production plants. And as in any thermodynamic cycle for power production, we have cooling needs. So if we use the heat which is extracted from the cycle to cool it down as a means to provide heat to a desalination process, then we will have heat for free. We will increase the exergy of the overall plant, and of course we are producing water and power, water and electricity. So recently, solar concentrating technologies have opened the possibility of having a thermal based electricity produced by means of solar energy. So there has been a lot of investigation, a lot of research done in this field, and today we already have commercial plants in place operating for several years. So, and of course, these technologies, they face some investment, some financial constraints, and desalination is regarded today as a possibility to increase the economical viability of such technologies. So basically, operating them also in a cogeneration layout. So the coupling between CSP and desalination is becoming an interesting vector of research in this field. And of course, it stands for an opportunity to increase overall investment revenues, and this combination is prone, again, to large-scale systems. So, in brief, what I try to show you is that we have different technological solutions for the exploitation of renewable energy resources, which can link to different desalination technologies and their respective energy requirements. Well, but even if we already have these technologies available, still renewable energy-driven desalination is not a common reality. Well, of course, this combination of technologies stands for important opportunities. Well, to start, environmental impacts. So we could increase water production capacity, holding back the environmental impacts associated to these technologies, to these desalination technologies. On the other hand, and it's very important, we can provide safety of supply. So we can rely on local resources to produce locally the water needs of a given region or of a given community. Again, this combination of technologies is prone to standalone decentralized system. And this is very important in places where we don't have in place the infrastructures for water and energy distribution. And of course, this kind of situation is also important in terms of investment analysis. If we can substitute the investment required to put in place such infrastructures where they don't exist. Still, we also have the opportunity of integrating agriculture activities in such projects. And with this integration, we can create new local economic activities. Even we can use, for instance, reverse osmosis as a flexible load system, providing stability to electrical grids which are dominated by renewable energies. And this could be, for instance, the case of countries taking a step forward in terms of the development of their electrical production system. But to tackle such opportunities, we still have to face a number of important challenges. Of course, like in all energy-related issues and all renewable energy-related issues, we have to think on how can we internalize the environmental impacts on the water price. So this is a very important issue because, in the end, we will always be facing a comparison of investments between business as usual technologies for water production or these innovative solutions. And of course, if we cannot capitalize the environmental advantages of renewable energy-driven desalination, we will have a disadvantage in terms of economical analysis. Also, it's important for us to have a full integration of energy supply in water production. So we are already used to hear about renewable energies. We should start to get used to hear about renewable water, because either we have renewable resources, which is not the case in so many regions, especially in the regions where we can and must use desalination technologies. So we should instead provide a renewable and sustainable mean of producing water in such regions, addressing these water resources as renewable resources. Also in terms of policies, it's important to coordinate energy and water-related policies, which normally are addressed by different institutional bodies. So it's important to put these two separated fields talking together in terms of the energy requirements for water production. Technical training and technologies dissemination is paramount. So these possibilities, which already exist, which are already available on the market, are not of the knowledge of a large audience. So it's important to keep the effort of dissemination on these technologies. Also, it's very important to increase the focus on small-scale systems, because very often when we talk about desalination, we are talking about large-scale systems. And we must be aware that a large part of water scarcity regions stand for small communities dispersed geographically and stand for small capacity systems. So it's important to put a focus on small-scale systems where renewable energy-driven desalination is most prominent application. And finally, come up with innovative financing models. So financing models that not only allow the investment on these technologies, but also provide sustainability to such investments. So it's important to couple the development of new economical activities in communities which are provided with access to both energy and water by means of these technologies. So thank you so much.
Your session period. So are there any questions? Because we work together also in renewable energy as well as all desalination with other energy sources, and we will continue talking about that. But meanwhile, is there any question? Well, thank you very much. And
there is a question, I'm afraid.
Oh, there is?
Thank you very much for this interesting presentation. I have a question. You didn't mention about what is the best institutional arrangement, to have a pure private business or to have a private public business or to be public business. This is very important because this kind of initiatives and kind of technology and needs some pioneers. And as you know, sometimes the governments are hesitant to invest money. What is, from your experience or from your educational background, what is the best model to do that from an institutional point of view?
Well, I mean, there is no clear answer to that question. Of course, we are talking about markets, so water and energy, which are very prone to monopolies, which are very prone to very regulated sectors. And of course, public authorities have a very important role on defining the most adequate policies to address either energy production and water production. So that depends very much on the context we are talking. But of course, we can separate large-scale systems, which clearly are much more linked to public policies, from small-scale systems, which could rely, for instance, in public support for some pilot initiatives. But from my point of view, what is important is to come up with financial mechanisms which can serve as a concept proof for the sustainability of the use of these technologies, especially when we talk about small communities which have no access to energy, which have no access to water, to prove that if such access is provided, that these technologies can develop new economical activities that can represent new resources, new financial resources, which are enough to pay for these systems. So from my point of view, this would be the best way to tackle in a massive way the problem of water and energy access to a large part of the population.
I have a,
Any other questions?
yeah, I have a question. Granted, you're right that in isolated sites, island, etc., this is a very interesting solution. However, when it comes to larger scale, people like to have a very inexpensive water, because water should come from, you know, God. And then comes two things. If you want to scale up, there is one question of the cost of real estate. Obviously, in a country like Israel, this is a difficult question.
Yeah.
If you go to Saudi Arabia, it's not a question at all, because there's enough desert. On the other hand, something which you mentioned, which I mean is something which lends more easily to scaling up, is CSP. Because CSP now is big, it's not exactly mature, and it's still more expensive than, say, natural gas or fossil, but still, it's making progress. And I believe if you want to produce something which is large scale, you know, like Ashkelon or something like that, you know, like 50,000 square meter, cubic meter a day, then probably CSP is the answer, except for the case of isolated sites.
No, I totally agree. But, well, the question is that when we talk about price, and it's very common to hear this answer when I go to a technology provider and I ask him, look, how much does it cost your technology to produce this capacity on this place? And very often the answer is, it depends. And actually it depends on a lot of different factors. And renewable energy-driven desalination, so stands for water costs that depends on the costs of the fuel you are substituting. And for instance, if you have fuel for free, as in the large-scale thermal desalination systems you will find in the Arab Gulf, well, if you have energy for free, solar energy is not coming there for anything. So, but when you talk, for instance, of small-scale systems, you are talking about communities which do not have access to energy, and when they have access to energy, this comes with a price. And actually, I was recently presenting a short article at the EDS conference, which was actually tackling this question. And what we saw is that depending on the technologies that you use, either from the solar part or from the desalination part, you can have a broad range of prices for the solar-related water costs. And I'm talking about prices from 80 cents a cubic meter to 80 euros a cubic meter. So there are a lot of different parameters impairing to the final results of these water costs. But what is clear is that you can create a map of situations when where investing in such combination of technologies could actually be more interesting economically than investing in a business as usual system based in fossil fuels or something like that.
Another question.
Following on from that question, I looked at your list and see that I don't think there are any installations yet in sub-Saharan Africa. Do you think the first installation will be a small decentralized community scale plant or something larger for municipal supplies?
Well, the sub-Saharan region is a very interesting region for CSP projects. Well, I believe that when I mention CSP, that all of you are aware of what I'm talking. So it stands for concentrated solar power. So we produce steam at high temperature, and we put this steam into a turbine, and works like a conventional power production system. So instead of burning some fossil fuel, we use concentrated solar energy. So this is CSP. So, and of course, this region, for its solar resource, it's very interesting for CSP applications. Actually, there is a very large plan for this region regarding CSP installations, and some of them are already underway. So my answer would be that most likely the first systems will be large-scale systems. Of course, people today start to argue about the viability of such combination because, of course, for you to have desalination, you either will have to have some source of brackish water on the place you are, or you should have direct access to seawater. And it happens that for you to install CSP technologies by the sea, it seems not to be the most adequate way of developing these projects, either for corrosion problems, but also in terms of solar resource. So when we go close to the sea, we will have more clouds, and the solar resource will not be as good as we would have it inland. But of course, there are different ways of addressing these possibilities.
My question is about the cost of pumping water to the desalination plant, and about the reuse or reuse of tailings.
The reuse of?
Tailings, the brines.
Yeah.
Of the brines after the extraction of the desalinized fraction.
Well, I mean, depending, and starting from the last question, depending on the technology you are using, you can have very high recovery ratios. So that means that you can actually come out with very concentrated brines, which can actually be used to extract salts as byproducts of this process. And in this case, you will not have any brine discharge or any effluent. And actually, there is quite a lot of work being done in this field. So the first question was, again, sorry? Pumping, okay. Yes, pumping requirements are a question. Actually, this is today one of the most important issues when it comes to compare membrane desalination, so reverse osmosis desalination, and thermally driven systems. So what happened along the last decade was that there was a very large improvement on reverse osmosis processes by means of including pressure recovery systems. So that means that the electricity consumptions that we needed before to pump the water through this membrane, and we are talking about very high pressures to use this process, these electricity consumptions, when we recover the pressure we are introducing in the system on the effluent, they came down a lot. And actually today, such consumptions stand for about the consumptions we have only for pumping in thermally driven processes. So that means that when we compare both these processes, they consume pretty much the same electricity. Well, maybe reverse osmosis will consume slightly, will present a slightly higher consumption, but they are very comparable. But on the other hand, the thermally driven system will still require a large amount of heat to make desalination. So
yes, but one of my questions was implicitly about this. The cost that pumping water to solar thermal desalination plants would take on the final price of the desalinized water, of the drinkable water.
Well, I don't have a clear answer to that. I mean, that depends a lot on the system you are talking about, on the configuration of the system, on the final layout, on the distances you have to go through. So that depends a lot. But I mean, what I can say is that all these technologies are designed as to minimize all these parasitic consumptions, and especially when we talk about large-scale thermally driven systems. Because actually this is an important issue.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much
And,
for your questions.
yeah.